everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I want to start this off by saying that I'm sorry that I've been gone since basically March. I was actually quarantined very far away from home, 600 miles to be exact, and I didn't feel right filming someone else's home as I tried to make videos. I wanted to wait till I was home, at my editing station, with my software, with my lights, somewhere I could film comfortably, so I hope you understand. But today I'm back with my favourite type of content, and that's LARP content. Today I'm going to be making a video that I wish I had seen before I started LARPing. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of videos like this one out there, there's even lists and blogs online that can help you, but I want to make this video from my own perspective. So let's dive into the world of making your own LARP character. Now, the most important thing to start with when you make your own LARP character is, what universe are you from? Are you from a high fantasy universe? Are you from a steampunk universe? Are you from a horror universe? Or are you from a universe that's incredibly similar to our own and is actually high realism? The genre of your game will always dictate the type of character you make, but some characters can be crossovers, it just depends on the scene. Now for the sake of this video, I'm going to choose a genre and we're going to create a character based off it. Let's go with steampunk, one of my favourite genres that I don't get to LARP very often. Okay, so we have a steampunk genre, but who do we actually want to play? You might be someone who's completely comfortable with doing the most dramatic scenes, i.e. crying, screaming, doing all sorts of dramatic things, intense anger. But you might also be someone who's not comfortable with those things. You want a really chill roleplay and you don't really want to get involved with more emotional scenes for personal or just you don't want to issues. LARP can be very intense and it's very important to know what you want to get out of it straight away. When I first started LARPing, I was absolutely terrified. I wasn't a good role player and I didn't really know what I was doing, but now I am more confident to do the bigger scenes, but that doesn't mean you have to be, especially not right away. Let's say for example, if you're somewhere like Empire LARP that has thousands of players, you might not be comfortable doing a magical ritual in front of 20, 30, 40, 100 people. I wouldn't, even now. But you might hear that and think that's the best thing ever, so you really need to think, what do you want out of all of this? Let's say, for the sake of this video game, that our steampunk character is very chaotic, because that's what I'm comfortable with. Chaotic good though. Okay, so we have a very steampunk but chaotic character. What's their personality? Now, I can admit that personalities are difficult when it comes to LARP, especially if you have a certain personality archetype you like. You can feel like you don't want to repeat yourself over and over again, but why not? Who cares? Personality again will dictate what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with, say, being very loving to someone or being very angry, then playing a character that's very loving or very angry isn't going to work for you. I'm going to use some of my own characters for example. Adelaida Astaroth, my character for Neothera Saga. She's very ditzy and has a very specific way of speaking.
Through constant alcoholism.
Can I talk to you?
Just apologise.
Let me talk!
Sorry.
Okay,
Right.
so basically I know that what you did at the time was like justified.
Yes.
Because I would be very upset if people were attacking you as well.
Yes.
And it's okay that you had to take the lives of people that were attacking, because that's okay.
Yeah.
But for right now I think it's okay that, okay, I did wrong, but that doesn't mean they didn't also
I don't want to lie to them.
No. But that doesn't also mean that they did wrong.
I never said they did. It's not my fault they were all hung up about it.
Well, maybe for just the situation right now, saying sorry would be really good.
But I'm not going to lie, am I?
Please.
I don't feel sorry, so why would I say sorry?
Please.
In fairness,
Please.
I feel like this is fair.
She has a brain injury and thus sometimes she can act like a child. Funnily enough, that was never my intention with Adelaida, but it works for her and I enjoy playing it. Whereas on the flip side, my now dead Empire character Dulcinea Rosengard was a serial flirt and pirate lord. Most of my game was spent running from those in places of authority and pickpocketing people, with their consent of course. So personality wise, you really need to buckle down on what you want to do. And that also comes with what scenes are you actually interested in doing. And with personality, always think about the consent of others. Just because you're playing someone very, very loving doesn't mean you have the right to go up to someone and touch them or cuddle them or kiss them. Please, please remember that especially in the LARP scene and in all walks of life, consent is key. But also, don't feel like you need to be tied down to the personality of your character, even a character that was pre-written for you. With my now in-player character Annalise, at first she was very tough and honestly not a very nice person. Not in a bad way, they were just very, very crude with everything they did. But now they're very light and honestly have a very good sense of humour. Sometimes you'll play a personality and you just won't like it, and it is okay to change it at any time. And that comes back to what you're comfortable playing and what genre you're in. Just because you chose someone from, say, a steampunk region who's chaotic good, doesn't mean you have to stick to it. Just talk to your referees and talk to your game makers. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you. Now, on to the hardest part in my opinion. What's even their personality? Sure, they're from a steampunk world and they're chaotic good, but what does that even really mean? Personalities can be really hard to nail, and this is something I really struggled with when I first started LARPing. And I think that sometimes there can be some stigmas around some personalities, but don't let that put you off. If you want to play a damsel in distress, even though that's sometimes looked down upon, play your damsel in distress. If that's what you're going to enjoy, do it. Just because someone else or a group of people don't like the archetype you want to play, who cares? Like, at one time I got told that playing a damsel in distress was cringy, but now I don't care. I'd happily play one. I think the archetype's kinda cool, and sometimes not done enough. And remember, certain archetypes can come in so many different forms. Say it is a damsel in distress, but you can play a damsel in distress that doesn't know they're one. They're going through a lot and they actually do need help, but they don't need it or want it. You can really spin things in any way you want. Especially evil characters. I think that's very fun to spin. Do they know they're evil? Do they know they're evil? Do they hate what they do, or do they downright love it? Does your character like making friends, or do they hate people? What's their favourite colour? What's their favourite food? I'd always say have something that makes your character special, if that makes sense. This doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's just the way they stand, or a way they talk, a way they hold themselves, or something they like. Again, with my character Adelaida, she talks in a very high-pitched, babyish voice. It's just who she is, and she's always tripping all over herself. To me, that's just Adelaida, but that's what makes her Adelaida. With Annalise, she's very militaristic, and she can't help it because that's how she was raised. That's what makes her special. What makes your character stand out, or not stand out? Do they have a pet that they love? Do they have a favourite piece of clothing? Do they have a best friend? Is their way of speech interesting or funny or serious? And going back to our steampunk character, okay, they're steampunk, chaotic good. Let's say they have a pretty happy-go-lucky personality, but they're very paranoid. I want to say as well, if you are going to be role-playing someone with a mental illness that you haven't experienced, please make sure to research. Portraying illnesses and mental illnesses wrong can have a very serious effect on those that do suffer with them. Make sure to always research and be respectful. Some people may even be willing to answer questions if they've experienced it before. Okay, so personality aside, what's their name? Sometimes a name comes to you the moment you think of a character, but I like to think of their name after I've come up with their personality and archetype. Again, this may go back to the world's brief. Maybe they have a brief of what type of name they should have or what region the name should come from in the real world. Maybe it only allows French names or German names or English names. But some LARPs are free game, so let's go over some of my character names. My first character, Faline Fairfax. Faline got from Bambi, and Fairfax I got from Fable 2. Luna Argine, a friend named them. Elamia Rosengard. I got Elamia from a friend, and Rosengard was the surname of an already existing character of mine, Dulcinea Rosengard. I got Dulcinea from Don Quixote, and Rosengard, same as before. Annalise Beaumont. Annalise, my mother actually named, and Beaumont I got from a site with French surnames because the family came from France. Adelaida Astaroth. Adelaida was the name of my Castlevania OC, and Astaroth is from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, you know, the Star of Astaroth. Briar Lenexia. Briar Lenexia? I don't know, that one just came to me actually. Rathspin. He was a demon who was inhabiting the body of a man named Aspin, what was the name of an already existing OC of mine, and he was a wrath demon. Rathspin? See, names come in all sorts of forms, and I'm sure you'll find one. I'd suggest looking at name generators if you're not sure, or popular names from the region you want to be from. I personally like more dramatic names, and people seem to want to steer people away from having more normal names, but totally go for it. I mean, my favourite character is just called Annalise, or Anna. But don't feel like you can't have a character with a very dramatic name, like Rathspin. You might try lots of names. For my Empire character, my first one, I had 3 different names until I felt comfortable. Sometimes you just go through names, and when you do find a name, you'll know because it'll click and it'll feel so right. Also, pick a name you're comfortable with because people will be calling you it. If you think you're not going to be able to respond, have people in your real life call you the name once or twice to see how you feel reacting to it. You might not feel good about it, and that might make you have to change it, but you might be called that name and even considered changing your real name to it. I've considered it. Now, on to one of the hardest bits. Costume. Costuming is difficult and can be really hard. Personally, I adore costuming, and I actually design costumes for anyone that needs it. I've seen so many of my designs brought to life, but that doesn't mean it's easy. I'm going to talk about some pros and cons of costumes I've worn in the past. My first LARP character, Faline Fairfax. Pros. It was very cute. It really suited her personality. I loved the detail on her hands. All the rings and the nails were beautiful. Her makeup was really cute, and I loved the white tights and the dress. Cons. The LARP went through until midnight. I was freezing. I wasn't smart enough then to bring a cardigan. The shoes were really dumb and they broke really fast. The wig was pretty matted by the time I got to the LARP, so it wasn't a good idea, and it didn't end up looking that good. Luna Argine. Can't really complain for this one. She was dressed pretty well, although she too was pretty darn cold. And for some reason I wore platform boots to Empire? Whoever let me get away with that? Don't wear platform boots to field LARPs, please. Elamia Rosengard. Pros? Her dress was absolutely beautiful. Her wig was beautiful. Her whole aesthetic was really on point, I think. Cons? Again, it was freezing. Empire goes on until late. And the bottom of the dress got really muddy, and there's nothing I could do. But that's field LARPs. Be aware of that. Dulcinea Rosengard. Pros? Beautiful colour scheme. The whole thing just looked great. It really suited her pirate aesthetic. Cons? Maybe it wasn't really on brief, and honestly it was really cold. Plus, the bodice, although beautiful, was very tight, and it made it difficult to sit. Adelaida Astaroth. Original outfit. One of my favourite outfits of all time. I think the pros are that the colour coordination is absolutely beautiful. I think her whole aesthetic is really fitting of the vampireness. Cons? I would always trip in her headscarf when getting up from being down. I mean, every time I would trip on it and fall back down. And it's not easy wearing a long skirt in combat. Annalise Beaumont. Pros. Her outfit was fitting for the world. It was different because I was actually doing something modern, but it totally worked. Yes, I was in high heels, but I could manage it. There wasn't really any cons to this outfit. I was smart enough by this point to wear a jacket. I was warm, I was comfy. It was fine. Rhylanexia. Pros, his outfit really worked, and he really looks like a hardened war doctor. Cons, I was in platform boots. Granted, this was an inside LARP and it actually had flat grounding, and I wanted to be a bit taller as I was playing a male character, but it hurt. And Annalise Beaumont, her stand-in outfit. It works, and I actually don't have any cons for it. See, sometimes things just work, but you will need to ask yourself some questions before you start costuming. What's the brief? Does it have specific things you can't wear? A lot of LARPs, especially older ones, don't allow things like jeans, graphic tees, things like that. Do you want to wear very loose clothing, or do you like things that are very tight-fitting? Are you going to be comfortable in these clothes for a long period of time? Do you feel like you could run in them, adventure in them, be in them for up to 20 hours a day? Are you comfortable with things like high heels or platform boots? I would always suggest though finding a good pair of boots. This of course isn't sponsored, but I have these 2 pair of boots. I have them in both brown and black, and they are so comfortable. I wear them to every LARP I go to, and because they're brown and black, I can interchange them for characters. I genuinely wear them for every single character. You will find your LARP boots, trust me. Are you comfortable with the idea of wigs? Would you be okay to have one on? Are you aware that they get really hot, and if they get wet, they don't dry like normal hair? Oh, always bring a belt. because you will probably be carrying everything on it. Is this a costume you can buy more than one version of? Will you have doubles? Will you have something to get into if your stuff gets too muddy or too wet? How are you going to keep yourself warm? Do you have a cloak or can you wear a jacket? And I don't want to hear anything about my character wouldn't wear a cloak, my character wouldn't wear a jacket, it doesn't fit my aesthetic. Don't do that, you will be freezing and you will regret it. Is your fabric breathable? Are you going to be able to run around in it? Are you going to get stuck and fall over on something? Like I always did with Adelaida's headpiece. Now again with my personal example, let's go back to our steampunk chaotic character. For me personally, I like wearing blouses. I find they're very fitting and look very good in a steampunk universe. But I'm going to wear some men's medieval trousers. They're a good colour, they're loose fitting and they're comfy, so we'll be using them. I can run in them, I can dance in them, I can walk in them, anything I like. They fit, but I'm going to make sure to put on a belt anyway, but around my waist so I can carry things. Because I am not comfortable with platform boots in such a chaotic, high-moving character, I'm going to wear my flat boots, and these ones are brown. They fit the colour scheme and they work. I'm going to also wear a body brace. I got this one from Von Toon. It's comfortable, I've worn it many times, and it doesn't restrict my movement. Adelaida wears it, and it makes us both look very industrious. Now, am I going to wear a wig? Not with this one. Sometimes you'll find that your natural hair really works, and some people only use their natural hair. Don't feel like you need to invest in wigs. Natural hair is okay. Now, how are we going to accessorize this character to make them look, you know, like themselves? Do they wear a mask? Do they wear goggles? Do they wear makeup? What about them makes them unique? With this character, it's going to be definitely some goggles. And how is their makeup going to be stylized? Do they even wear any? And what's my hair going to be like? How am I going to style it? With this character, luckily, I'm just going to rake my fingers through my hair and make it messy, like I've been working. Now, do I have any props? What does this game allow? Is it medieval and it's only things like swords, knives, maces, axes? Or can you do something more modern? Because this character is in a steampunk universe, let's give her a gun. I go to many LARPs that actually allow guns. Neothera Saga, you're allowed to use Nerf guns as long as they're painted up. My character Adelaida actually uses one. And most importantly, how am I going to keep myself warm? With Lucinda, it's going to be a cardigan. It's comfy and it does actually keep me warm. Adelaida also wears this. And now, we've put it all together. So let's name this character Lucinda. You might know Lucinda from my steampunk video. This is who I based it off. So there, you've got your first LARP character. You feel comfortable, you look good, and you're ready to go. But you feel nervous. What do you do? Other roleplayers can be intimidating. When people seem to know what they're doing, it's pretty scary. I just want you to keep in mind that they're human too. They're just acting just like you are. We're just a bunch of nerds in a field hitting each other with foam sticks. Try to communicate with others, and if you can, find groups online that'll maybe accept you into their circle. Always treat other players with kindness, and don't use LARP as an excuse to be an asshole. Anyway, that was my LARP character creation 101. I hope that was actually beneficial to any of you. I'm sorry that it was all over the place. I do have ADHD. So, thank you for watching. I'm so glad to be back, and let's hope I see you all in the LARP field soon enough. Anyway, my baby bats. Until next time.